Daniel chapter 2 is probably the best starting point for examining the prophecies in Daniel and Revelation, the apocalyptic prophecies. Daniel 2 provides kind of an outline of how all the other prophecies fit into. It provides the framework. You can say all the other ones take either the entire outline and expand on it, or take portions of the outline and expand on it. Um, so Daniel 2 is, if you understand the vision in Daniel 2, then you can understand much better what's going on in the rest of the prophecies in Daniel and Revelation. So let's take a look. Daniel 2 starts off with, "And in the second year of the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians, the astrologers, the sorcerers, the Chaldeans, for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king, and the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Then spake the Chaldeans to the king in Syriac, O king, live forever. Tell thy servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, The thing is gone from me. If ye will not make known unto me the dream, with the interpretation thereof, ye shall be cut into pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill." And he continues, "But if ye show the dream and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me even the dream and the interpretation thereof." They answered again and said, Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it. The king answered and said, I know of certainty that ye would gain the time, because ye see the thing is gone from me. But if ye would make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you. For ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me, till the time be changed. Therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show me the interpretation thereof. The Chaldeans answered the king and said, There is not a man on all the earth that can show the king's manner. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asketh such things of any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. And it is a rare thing that the king requireth, and there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, Why is the decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he should give him time, that he would show the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, that they would desire mercies of the God of heaven, concerning this secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. And Daniel and his companions were captured from Jerusalem earlier and brought to Babylon as slaves, and were appointed to positions in the kingdom. It's an usual practice for us today, but it's actually fairly common for the Babylonians. Conquer a city, bring the members of the royal family to their own city, and give them positions, duties, and work. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in our night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of God for ever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changeth the times and the seasons, and removeth kings, and setteth up kings. And he giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in darkness, and the light that dwelleth with them. I thank thee and praise thee, O God of my fathers, who hast given me wisdom and might, and hast made known unto me now what we desired of thee. For thou hast now made known unto us the king's matter. Therefore Daniel went in unto Arioch, whom the king had ordained, to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah that will make known unto the king the interpretation. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, Art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, The secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men and astrologers, the magicians, soothsayers, show unto the king. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar, unto the king Nebuchadnezzar, what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and the vision of thy head upon thy bed are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter. And he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living. But for their sakes I shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. The great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. The image's head was of fine gold, and his breast and arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them into pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, the gold, broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, and there was no place was found for them, and that the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. This is the dream that we will tell, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art the king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, strength, and glory. And wherever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven, hath he given into thine hand, that he made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. Now, why the head of gold? Here's some examples. Why gold? The prophet Jeremiah described Babylon as a golden cup. In Jeremiah 51:7 it says, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, that hath making all the earth drunken, and the nations drunken the wine, have drunken over wine, whereof the nations are mad. That's just kind of one example. Why gold? Another is in Herodotus. The Greek historian Herodotus testified to the golden splendor of Babylon. I've got a quote from Herodotus here if you want to read over it, and pause the video and read it. And we know that from history books that the Assyrian Empire dominated the Near East for 3 centuries. Then in the space of 3 years it was destroyed by the Babylonians. The remnants of the Assyrian forces took refuge in Haran. The Babylonians captured in 610 BC. The Babylonian king Nabopolassar wrote an epitaph for the Assyrian Empire. I slaughtered the land of Subarim, Assyria. I turned all the hostile land into heaps and ruins. The Assyrians, since distant days, have ruled over all the peoples. With his heavy yoke brought injury to the people of the land. His fleet from Akkad brought back, his yoke threw off. The Egyptians tried to reinstate the Assyrian allies, to power the following year, 609 BC, but failed. They only managed to gain control of some of the former Assyrian territory and failed to save the Assyrian allies. So the fall of Assyria and the rise of the Babylonian Empire is commonly dated to about 609 BC. Since the division is concerned primarily with one power, when one power is replaced with another, not necessarily beginning a point of each kingdom, which can overlap, we can mark the beginning of Babylonian dominance in 609 BC. And this continues down until October 12, 539 BC, when the Persian king Cyrus conquered Babylon. Now Daniel continues. And after thee shall rise another kingdom inferior to thee, and a third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. Now, the Greek historian Herodotus recorded that the Persians used silver as the standard for the tribute paid by the satraps of the Persian Empire, so it's a very good metal symbolizing the Persian Empire. And I've got a section from Herodotus here if you want to read over it, going into all the detail there. If you want to pause the video and read all that. The Persians conquered the city of Babylon on October 12, 539 BC. And the prophet Isaiah, about 2 centuries before, gave a prophecy from God concerning this. And it says, "Thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, his right hand have I holden, to subdue nations before him. And I will loose the loins of the kings to open before him the 2-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. I will go before thee, and make the crooked places straight. I will break into pieces the gates of brass, cut in sunder the bars of iron. And I will give thee the treasures of darkness, and hidden riches of secret places, that thou mayest know that I, the Lord, which call thee by name, am the God of Israel. For Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel mine elect, I have even called thee by name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. For I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me, that they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none beside me. I am the Lord, and there is none else. I form the light and create the darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things." And that prophecy was given a couple centuries before Cyrus conquered Babylon. And you see a lot of allusions to the way it actually took place. And it's recorded in a way, the history of the conquest of Babylon is recorded in a way that strongly echoes Isaiah's prophecy. And I'll go ahead and read it since it's actually pretty interesting. "Therefore, whether it was some other man who suggested it to him when he was in strait what to do, or whether he of himself perceived what he ought to do, he did as follows. The main body of his army he posted at the place where the river runs into the city, and again behind the city set others where the river issues forth from the city. And he proclaimed to his army that so soon as they should see the stream had become passable, they should enter by this way into the city. Having thus set them in their places, and in this matter exhorted them, he marched away himself with that part of the army which is not fit for fighting. And when he came to the lake, Cyrus also did the same thing which the queen of the Babylonians had done as regards the river and the lake, that is to say, he conducted the river by a channel into the lake, which is at that time a swamp, and so made the former course of the river passable by the sinking of the stream. When this had been done in such a manner, the Persians, who had been posted for this very purpose, entered by the bed of the river Euphrates into Babylon, the stream having sunk so far that it reached about the middle of the man's thigh. Now if the Babylonians had knowledge of this beforehand, or had perceived that which had been done by Cyrus, they would have allowed the Persians to enter the city and then destroy them miserably. For if they had closed all the gates led to the river, and mounted themselves upon the ramparts which were carried along the banks of the stream, they would have caught them, as it were, in a fish wheel. But as it was, the Persians came upon them unexpectedly, and owing to the size of the city, so it said by those who dwell there, after those about the extremities of the city had suffered capture, the Babylonians who dwelt in the middle did not know that they had been captured. But as they chanced to be holding a festival, they went on dancing and rejoicing during this time until they learned the truth only too well. Babylon had thus been taken for the first time. 2 centuries after that, the Greeks, under the leadership of Alexander the Great, conquered the Persian Empire and became the dominant power in the Near East and Mediterranean. The final battle was fought on October 1st, 331 BC. And of course, in Daniel 2, it said that a third kingdom of brass, which should bear rule over all the earth, and that's the Greek Empire. Of course, the question is why brass? And the Greek historian Herodotus tells an interesting story which illustrates why brass is an appropriate metal for the Greeks. He tells a story about uh, an anecdote about the Greek armor. And you can read that here about the famous for the bronze armor. Alexander the Great's empire was divided after his death and was conquered by the Romans in a series of wars. This time period is known as the Hellenistic Age. It is generally regarded as running through the death of Alexander in 323 BC to the Roman conquest of the last Hellenistic kingdom in 31 BC. In the fourth kingdom, Daniel continues, the fourth kingdom, which is the kingdom of Rome, shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh into pieces, and subdueth all things, and as iron breaketh all these, so shall it break in pieces and bruise. The Macedonian king Alexander the Great led the Greeks to conquer the known world and issued a period of Greek dominance of the Hellenistic Age. And the Hellenistic Age came to an end with the Roman conquest of the last Hellenistic kingdom in 31 BC. The Roman conquest of the Hellenistic Greek world took place over several centuries through a number of wars. This was simply the last one. The Prophecies seems to mark the change in the metals with the transition power from one power to another. One good transition point would be the Battle of Pydna on June 22nd, 168 BC. In this battle, the Roman forces broke the Macedonians and ended the rule of the Antigonian kings, which traced their power back to Alexander the Great. So you can kind of mark the transition at whichever point seems better, but the point is there was a transition from the Greeks to the Romans. The appropriateness of the metal can be seen in the heavy use of iron in the weapons and armor. More importantly, the vision emphasizes the strength and power of this kingdom and its ability to crush all other kingdoms. And this is epitomized in the famous words of Julius Caesar, I came, I saw, I conquered. Much of Roman culture is built on showing its strength. This can be seen in its conquest, its brutal suppression of rebellion, and even its favorite entertainments, which included pitting gladiator against gladiator, gladiator against animal and chariot races, which often ended in the death of the competitors. Daniel continues, and whereas thou sawest the feet of toes, part of potter's clay, part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, and there shall be in it strength of iron, for as much as thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron, part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as the iron is not mixed with clay. You will notice that the interpretation spends a disproportionately large amount of time detailed on this phase compared to the others. This is much longer. This is important because many of the other prophecies in Daniel Revelation spend a great deal of time on this period. Let's look at what it says here. In verse 41, we see a marked difference in this portion of the statue. When transitioning between sections, the interpretation for the previous metals always mentions another kingdom rising. However, we find something different. In verse 41 says that the kingdom shall be divided. The divisions would contain both the strength of iron and the weakness of potter's clay. When we look at the history of the Roman Empire, we see that it was not simply conquered by a new rising superpower like the previous empires. Instead, the empire was divided into two after the death of Theodosius I. The Western Roman Empire, centered in Italy, was torn apart by various barbarian tribes that invaded it. Interestingly, some of the tribes initially entered the Roman territory through agreements. The agreements often include military service rendered by the barbarians to Rome. Rome became heavily dependent on mercenary forces. In fact, the last emperor was deposed by barbarian Odoacer, leading a Roman army. And Odoacer's reign was approved by the Roman Senate. So it's not like an outside superpower. The kingdom's divided up partly through the invasions and partly through the barbarian tribes becoming Romans themselves and splitting the Roman Empire from the inside. He was leading a Roman army, um, and his reign was approved by the Roman Senate. The prophecy describes the kingdom as mingling with the seeds of men, but not cleaving together. Now, throughout the history of Western Europe, the royal families have practiced intermarriage with the hopes of securing peace. However, no one has been able to unite Europe for very long. It's remained divided. All attempts to unite Europe once more have kind of crumbled after a while. None of them lasted very long. And in those days, uh, in the days of these kings, the God of heaven set up a kingdom which should never be destroyed. And then Daniel continuing on, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest the stone was cut out of the mountain, without hands, that it break into pieces, the iron, the clay, brass, the clay, the silver, the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Now we have come to the part that describes our future. God will destroy all the earthly kingdoms. He will set up his own eternal kingdom, which will last forever. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. And the king answered unto Daniel, and said, of a truth it is, that your God is a God of gods, and a Lord of kings, and revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldst reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, the chief of the governor over all the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king that he should set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. And these are their Babylonian names. All four of them had both Hebrew and Babylonian names. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king.